welcome everyone to the pricing formula workshop. I'm really excited that you're here and that you guys got to sign up and be part of this. This formula was something that was really helpful for me in terms of just bringing a lot more clarity to me, and I'll talk more about all of that, but I'm just really excited that you guys are here. So let's just get into it. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about me, just to start, so you know who I am. My name is Mélissa. I'm a self-taught Asian creative entrepreneur. I say self-taught because a lot of what I've learned over the years in through YouTube or tutorials or resources, online resources, through practicing and other people who have given me tips and tricks here and there. And so I'm proud to say that I'm proud to be able to give back resources to people like me who might be self-taught or who are in that journey of learning just like me. What I do today, I'm working full-time as a photographer, videographer, graphic and web designer, and content creator in general for brands and for myself. And so I'm just really excited to have you with me today. We are going to cover a few things. We're going to cover the why of the formula, the goal, the variables, the formula itself. We'll talk about the formula itself, and then we'll go into services and things like that. So if that's cool, let's just get into it. So the why. The why behind the formula, basically there are two things that I was thinking about. And the first concept is the idea that time is currency. So the time that you give to one project is time that you're not giving to another project. So the time that you're, especially if you want to be fully present, if you're not trying to do multiple things at the same time. So time that you're giving away, that you're giving to a friend, is time that you're not spending on social media, or time that you're spending on social media is time that you're not connecting with a friend. You see what I mean in that sense? So that's one of the concepts with a pricing formula, being able to quantify time and give value to your time. The second thing is intentional living. And so I wanted a formula that allowed me to be more intentional about where each minute in my day, where it goes, and in order to prioritize the things that are important to me, the plans and the purposes that I have, that God has given me, etc., etc. So this is kind of the why behind the formula. And now we can talk about the goal. And so in terms of the goal, there's the balancing. So there are two important concepts. We talk time. Money is usually one of the a currency that we all know. And so it's just easy to talk about money, but to talk about time as currency and balancing both, that was something that was very important to me and something that I found that came out of me using the formula. The second thing is generosity, and not just generosity in terms of monies, but also generosity in terms of relational generosity. So being able to give time to people that I care about, people in my community, people people on social media, just having solid reasons for saying no to certain things in order to say yes to other things. That also was something that I wanted to achieve, and that where the formula was a tool for me. And the third thing is obviously growth in business. The idea is that, if you're trying to get paid, you're trying to get paid more and more, so that seems obvious, but also sometimes in order to kind of grow. And good question. The slides will be available after, and so you'll be able to go over those things on your own and maybe ponder and have some discussion questions that you can think through for yourself in terms of how you want to use a formula. And so yes, like a lot of times in order to grow, you need to start somewhere, and the formula is kind of a gauge as well of like, okay, this is how I'm growing, this is where I'm headed. So that's for the goal. In terms of the variables now, I trust that you guys have all started like playing around with the formula, or maybe duplicated the template so that you could see and work with it. We'll go into the template in this workshop, but I just want you to have done it as well so that you are fully in charge of it, if that makes sense. So in terms of the variables, that there are certain things that will be important when you're determining how you'll be customizing the formula to you. So one of the first things is skill. So what are the skills that what kind of skill do you have? What level of skill do you have in terms of knowledge? So how knowledgeable are you on a specific topic? That also will be a specific topic, or like in your biz. The third thing is experience. So how long have you been doing this? Someone who's just starting out, for example, in one area, let's say photography or something, they might not necessarily have the same experience as someone else. And gear also comes to play. If, for example, if I have like a 35 millimeter, that's like lens, which costs more money than maybe like a basic introductory lens, then that the difference in the gear adds to the quality of the content of the service or product that I'll be providing. And so that also goes into the formula. And the fifth thing is context. So where are you situated? For example, charging a client, and where is your client specifically situated? So are you there are a variety of people in this workshop. For example, there are people who are like all over, and so you might be living in Haiti, and so that's one context, and you might be living in the States, or in the UK, or in India, or Korea, or wherever. And so because of your context, you have to the result of the formula will vary with that. So and client buying power comes as well. So and that's where the formula, you have to be very flexible as well. So if you're serving the classic example is like you serving a mom and pop shop is not the same thing as you serving a big brand like, let's say, Nike. Because the stakes are higher, the client has more buying power, the campaign, if let's say you're an influencer, the campaign is a lot bigger with a bigger reach, etc., etc. So all of those different variables come to play in terms of how you customize the formula to your own life and your own setting. So in terms of the formula itself, there are a few things to go into, and the reason I love that it's already a formula, so there's not a lot that you have to do. But in terms of the things that you might want to do, so there's in terms of fixing your hourly rate, that's one of the first things that you will do in terms of customizing that formula. So, and the fixing your hourly rate will depend on the variables that we talked about. So we talked about skill, gear, experience, knowledge, the context, client buying power. All of those variables will determine what your hourly rate is. For example, you might be starting in your business and you're like, I can't really charge $500 an hour because, you know what I mean? This is not I'm not there yet. I will, like, you trust that you will be there. And that's what's great about the formula, is that you can, because if you have a formula, you can gauge where you're at and where you're trying to go and grow into. And so you could start, okay, you know what, I'm just starting. I don't have a lot of experience, but I want to start and I want to get paid. So maybe I'll do $6 an hour, or maybe I'll do $2 an hour, or maybe I'll do $20 an hour. Whatever you decide, based on skill, all the variables that we talked about, this will, and then maybe a year later, when you've increased in all of those things, or your client base has grown, etc., then you can start to think about, okay, I can go from 6 to 8, or I can go from 25 to 30, I can, etc., and or I can go to from 100 to 200 to 500 to 1,000. I don't know where, but I'm excited because that is a gauge. That will help you gauge where you're going and how you're growing. And that's the exciting part, is that this will help you not feel like you're static. And so that's the exciting part. So the base rate is essentially expenses plus hourly rate. So that's, this formula was inspired by, a video that I saw and even with the video, the reason why this formula came to be is because I reached out to a fellow creative who, her context is different. She's in the US, but she was so kind enough to be transparent with me. And so I just felt like, okay, if I'm going to do this formula, I'm going to practice this, use this, then I want to make sure that I'm as transparent as possible so that other people can have that tool as well. And so in terms of the inspiration for that, that's the base rate, that's where this is sourced. And so expenses, so making sure that you know, okay, what are you investing? And then the hourly rate, so like for 1 hour of work, so that's kind of how the formula calculates your base rate. And then you have pre-production, post-production itself, and post-production. This is just like pre-work, the actual work, and then the wrapping up. I got to hear a few people share about what they're doing as we were coming in. And so, for example, one of the wonderful ladies that are here said that she's a lifestyle blogger and things like that. So for example, let's say that she's doing a social media campaign for a specific brand. So the prep work might be that she is doing research, figuring out what the brand is like, what putting together a mood board, etc. And the actual work will probably be that she's shooting the campaign, whether it's video, audio form, whatever format. And then the wrapping up might be the actual publishing and the managing of the content and the interactions around the content, maybe analytics as well. And so all of that's pre-production, production, and post-production. And the final thing is the idea of allowing margin in order to be generous. So that's because I wanted, part of the goal was to be able to be generous, to not feel bad when I can't be generous to a certain extent, but also to have an opportunity, if I can be generous, to be generous. Again, not only with monies, but also with relationships. And so allowing margin, so the minimum in that formula, and we'll go and see those things together, but the minimum is basically, it's kind of an estimate of what it would cost. What's the minimum that, if you work, you need to be paid, unless you're doing this pro bono and that you already know that I am giving all of that monies. That's me being generous and giving all of the zeros. But if you still want to be somewhat generous but also be paid, then the minimum is kind of like what what are you absolutely due with the time and the resources that you have put in, but that you're trying to stretch in order to help someone out, to help a brand out, maybe like a nonprofit that, you know, whatever it is that you are deciding to be generous with. So that's the minimum. And you might decide to ignore this minimum. You might decide to keep it as like, okay, I could use this, but this is kind of the idea behind the minimum. And we'll go now into the actual formula. We'll go in and I'll do kind of a walkthrough. And from there, one of the things that I could, you can do, since we are a workshop, is that if there are questions that you have, you can put them in the chat while we're doing the walkthrough, and so that, or the questions that you have from the things that I've talked about, I'll try to answer as many questions, maybe 2 or 3 or as many as I can during the workshop, and the rest of the questions I'll just make a note of them so that I can answer them in writing form or in some other form that you'll have access to. So let's go into the formula itself. So now we're at the formula, and there's an example there, and basically let's create a new example. Do you guys have any suggestions? Do you want me to pick myself? First one. You don't see the formula on the screen. Oh, yes. There you go. Thank you. You guys are so great. So yes. Is there, now that you see the formula, perfect. Is there any specific example of a package or a service or that you'd want me to try and work with? Any suggestions just now? If not, I'll just go in.
Yes, we can hear you. I think Anne is speaking.
Oh, you are? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Wasn't it Anne? That was Christina? Oh, Christina. Okay.
Go ahead, girl.
Sorry, I can't hear my super low. But I was saying as an example, because I'm a virtual assistant, like I do packages sometimes monthly for clients, depending like if they want me to do graphics for Instagram, email marketing for them. So let's say like my hourly rate is, we'll say $20. Worth.
Okay.
I guess expenses, we could say like I paid for an annual Canva subscription.
Okay, wait. Let's do it together. Actually, this is really nice. So your VA package is say content creation. Okay, cool.
Email. Okay, just one.
And Canva. 13. We'll just put this as like an expense or something for now. Transport. So now in terms of, okay, and we're changing to 20. So, to 20, yes. So, sorry. Yes. So this is 20, done. And transportation, there's no transportation cost. So we can forfeit that. And usually, basically, what you do is that you go into, the hourlies are already set. So, and the transportation cost will be calculated. All you have to do is put in the hours, and which is why I talked about time as currency. So let's say 0. And then for your hourly, so you already have your base rate calculated from there, which is 40, right? And then, okay, you said that you wanted to do the hourly edit, and that's 20 done. Production, edit formula. No, you don't need to edit that. Oh yes, hourly rate for production. You can go and edit formula, and you want it to be 20 as well. And then production, edit formula. No, not production. Sorry. Post-production hourly rate, and that's 20 as well. And then, okay, so you have your base rate already calculated because you've put in the expenses. Transport, if you were doing transport, if transport was an expense. So you have the base rate already. And then pre-production hours. Oh. What would that be, for example? Like 1, 2?
Maybe like I would say 1.
Okay, 1. And then your, in terms of production, minimum hours and maximum hours. So like for the project, like the content creation package, how long would it take you? Like maximum, and then like if you stretched it, how long would it take you?
Minimum, I would say 2 hours, and then max maybe 5.
That's good. Yeah. And then post-production, if there's no post-production like needed, you can just put 0. If there is, that's needed, and for pre as well, but good job.
I'll say 1.
Yeah. And the great thing with the formulas too is that if it's 30 minutes, you can just put like 0.5. And that's also like really quick. Anyway, I just found that really, really exciting. But that's just the math lover in me. But anyway, so we're basically done. And so you have the minimum bill, which could be like 120, maximum bill like 180, and then for taxes, you can edit this however you want. I put 10% here, but obviously it depends on the context and where you're from, and obviously you can fix that, you can discard that and calculate taxes after, you can do whatever you want. But this is basically it, and then here you go, you have your final bill, and of 198. Congratulations. Yes.
So this is what I would charge them monthly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this kind of how it works, and obviously with time and also knowing how to gauge, you'll be able to gauge, okay, this is close to what I want to share, this is not yet it. You figure out in terms of like also like your hours, you're realizing actually I work a lot more than 5 hours on this project, so I need to be like, and so that kind of helps you think, okay, maybe it's time to increase, or maybe it's time to strategize on how my productivity, etc., etc. And so this is a formula. In terms of the questions, how about you guys share them on the chat, right? Yes, very straightforward. I love things that are straightforward, and so I'm excited that you think that way too. So if you have questions, send them on the chat right now, or as I'm talking to wrap up this lovely 30-minute workshop. And then if there's certain questions that I can answer right away, I will. And if there are questions that I can expand on, I will do that. And probably in blog form or some type of form. But yeah, I'm really excited that you guys were able to come. I'm excited for you guys to thrive and use this formula. And yes, I love the deep questions. And those are amazing questions. Please keep them coming. So in terms of services that you might need, and these are services that I offer if you're like a business and you may not have time, for example, to do digital content creation, then this is something that you can reach out to me about in doing. If you are a business and you're trying to have a website of your own, so this is also something that I offer. I think that's really important, having a website and a platform that's completely yours, that you can rely on and really thrive in your business. This is also something that we can talk about. But in general, I'm just really excited that you guys were able to come. And I'm looking at all the questions. Yes. How to deal with thinking of you are charging more? What should I put for transportation? Struggle with Notion. Ooh, all of those questions are beautiful. Any advice for negotiating and advocating for a higher rate budget? Ooh, yes, all the good questions. Expenses. How should I calculate the expenses? What should be included? Okay. That's awesome. I love all of these questions and I cannot wait to answer them. I think to give you a better answer, I will sit down and write something a bit more comprehensive, just so you can have a better response. And I'll try and think about also situations where I've had to deal with those things and how I dealt with them. And so I'm really excited that you were able to come. Thanks again for really coming. And I'm so excited to see so many of you lovely ladies today. And yeah, this is great. You will probably receive an email with the answers and things like that. Yes. And yeah, thank you for coming.